500,000 years after humans disappeared, Billy Taylor staggered out of his cryopod, groggily surveying the human sleeper ship UES Odyssey. Barely awake and moving slowly, it took him a full minute to realize the other pods were all empty. Adrenaline surged through the ex-marine's veins as he rushed to the bridge, pounding the controls to bring the ship's AI online. Nothing. The core was dead. Fuck. Billy slammed his fist into the console. He pulled up the ship's log, searching for answers. The final entry was from a Captain Yaxer of the Betazoid hegemony. Billy's blood ran cold as he played the message. To any humans who may awaken, Yaxer's voice was strained, know that 500,000 years have passed since your Odyssey fled Earth. We Betazoids found your drifting ship and recognized the threat your advanced weapons posed. We shut down your AI and neutralized the crew in cryosleep. We planned to take your ship's secrets before you could awaken. He coughed a wet, agonised sound. But we were attacked. My strike team, torn apart by something. An alien intelligence has infested your ship. It's blocking me from the scuttle commands. I can't stop it. It's coming. It's coming. No. Agir! Yaxer's screams cut off as something dragged him into the shadows. Billy's heart pounded. He was alone on an alien-infested ship, with no idea what killed the Betazoids or what it wanted. His marine instincts kicked in. He needed weapons. Now. The ship's armory had been raided, but a few pieces remained. Advanced armor, a plasma rifle, a vibroblade. He armed up and pulled up a schematic of the ship. Entire sections had been changed, reconfigured by whatever the fuck was on board. A proximity alert blared. A Betazoid battle fleet had just dropped out of hyperspace on an intercept course. No doubt they wanted the ship and any human survivors dead. Shit. Billy chambered a plasma cell in his rifle. This was now a fight for his own life and for the future of the human race. After 500,000 years, against an alien presence on this ship and an entire Betazoid fleet gunning for him, the survival of humanity itself rested in his hands. With the Betazoid fleet bearing down and the clock ticking, Billy knew he had to act fast. The twisted alien presence had to be purged from the Odyssey before reinforcements arrived. Slapping a fresh cell into his plasma rifle, he pulled up the ship's schematics on his HUD, the AI highlighting the infested sections in angry red. "All right, you alien fucks," Billy growled. "Time to take back my ship." He hit the door controls and stormed into the first corrupted deck, rifle at the ready. What had once been sterile metal corridors were now a nightmare fusion of jagged steel and pulsing, cancerous growths. Movement skittered in the shadows. Strange insectoid creatures, their carapaces glistening with slime. Billy opened fire, plasma bolts screeching through the fetid air. To his shock, the creatures were shielded, the plasma splashing off with flares of blue light. "Fuck!" he snarled as they scuttled closer, pincers clacking. He slung his rifle and unslung the grav hammer, thumbing the power to max. The creatures lunged. Billy swung. The hammer's shockwave pulped their carapaces like rotten fruit, splattering the bulkheads with ichor. He pushed forward, smashing and crushing, alien bodies rupturing under the hammer's relentless impacts. Deck by deck he fought, the creatures growing larger and more twisted. Vicious fangs, dripping tendrils, razor-tipped legs that lashed out like organic blades. Billy took hits, his armor sparking and denting, but he pushed on with single-minded purpose. The reactor. He had to reach the reactor. Finally, he kicked through the blast doors to the reactor chamber and stopped cold. Rising from the seething mass of flesh and metal was a towering abomination, segmented limbs, writhing tentacles, all fused into a grotesque cybernetic monstrosity. Glowing conduits pulsed like obscene veins. It was the heart of the infestation, the central hive mind. It lunged, vicious tendrils lashing out to ensnare him. Billy roared and charged, fighting like a man possessed. He ripped the tendrils free, servos whining, and with a final desperate surge, he heaved the flailing abomination up and over. Right into the reactor core. Shrieking, it tumbled into the plasma, instantly incinerated by the raging energies within. With the hive mind destroyed, the remaining creatures thrashed and spasmed, their coordination gone. Billy staggered to the armory, sparks spitting from ruptured power conduits. He had minutes. Snatching up a grav cell and a spool of cable, he jury-rigged a crude EMP bomb. "Come on, you bastards!" he roared over the ship-wide comms. "Come and get me!" The creatures surged into the armory, a tide of twisted flesh and metal. Billy hurled the EMP device into their midst and dove behind the heavy workbenches. The bomb detonated in a flash of blinding blue-white, the electromagnetic pulses frying the creatures' cybernetics and overloading their shields. Billy rose, grav hammer in hand, and strode into their twitching midst. He crushed and smashed, pulverizing the helpless creatures until the armory ran thick with ichor. Panting, aching, he staggered to the viewport. Just in time to see the Betazoid fleet drop out of warp, weapons hot. "Attention, human vessel," the comm blared. "You are outgunned and in illegal possession of hegemony technology. Power down and prepare to surrender, or you will be destroyed." Billy leaned on his hammer and keyed the ship-wide comms. The creature's ruptured remnants were sucked out the airlocks, tumbling and freezing in the vacuum as they drifted towards the Betazoid ships. "I am Sergeant Billy Taylor, United Earth Space Marines," he growled into the comm. "I have cleansed my ship of the filth that slaughtered your scouting party. Your fleet is next. You have one human lifetime to leave this space, or I will bring the wrath of Earth itself down upon your worlds. This is your only warning." The Betazoid ships opened fire, lances of nuclear hellfire searing through the void towards the Odyssey. Billy bared his teeth in a feral grin. The Odyssey shuddered as the Betazoid fleet's railguns slammed into its shields. Billy gritted his teeth as he watched the ship's energy levels plummet. He throttled the engines to full, trying to put some distance between the Odyssey and its pursuers, but the Betazoids matched his every move. "Shit, I can't outrun them," Billy muttered, his eyes scanning the tactical display. The Betazoids had him outgunned and outnumbered. He needed a new plan, fast. His gaze fell on a nearby Oort cloud, a dense field of icy debris left over from the system's formation. A crazy idea formed in his mind. "All right, you bastards," he growled. "Let's see how you like this." He plotted a jump into the heart of the Oort cloud and punched the thrusters. The Odyssey surged forward, weaving between tumbling comets and jagged asteroids. The Betazoid ships pursued relentlessly, their railguns hammering the Odyssey's aft shields. Billy's hands flew over the controls, deploying a swarm of drones. The tiny machines zipped through the icy debris, herding a massive comet onto a collision course with the lead Betazoid destroyer. "Gotcha," Billy grinned. He locked a salvo of missiles onto the comet and fired. The missiles streaked through space and slammed into the icy surface, detonating in a blinding flash. The comet shattered, spraying the destroyer with a massive plume of ice and rock. The Betazoid ship's shields flared and died under the onslaught, its hull shredding like paper. Billy seized the momentary confusion and looped the Odyssey back towards the Betazoid formation. He aimed the ship's prow at the unshielded midsection of another destroyer and rammed the throttle to full. The Odyssey slammed into the Betazoid ship like a battering ram, its reinforced hull tearing through bulkheads and decks. The destroyer split in half, spilling debris and bodies into the void. As the Odyssey emerged from the expanding debris field, Billy found himself surrounded by the remaining Betazoid ships. They had regrouped and cut off his escape. "Human," the Betazoid commander's voice crackled over the comm. "Surrender your ship and its technology immediately, or be vaporized." Billy's lips curled into a defiant snarl. He brought up the Odyssey's reactor controls and input a series of commands, setting them to overload. "I've got a counter-offer," he broadcast to the Betazoids. "Back off and let me leave, or I'll detonate my reactors. The antimatter blast will annihilate your entire fleet." There was a moment of tense silence. Then the Betazoids opened fire, lances of energy streaking towards the Odyssey. Billy slammed his fist on the control panel, ejecting the overloading reactors towards the Betazoid fleet. The Betazoids scrambled to divert their fire, desperate to avoid the impending explosion. In the ensuing chaos, Billy plotted a jump to the nearest star system. The Odyssey's engines flared to life, propelling the ship towards the jump point. Behind him, the ejected reactors detonated in a blinding flash of antimatter annihilation, the shockwave crippling or destroying the remaining Betazoid ships. The Odyssey limped through the void, systems failing one by one. Sparks spat from ruptured conduits, the lights flickering ominously. In the cockpit, Billy frantically worked the controls, trying to coax a little more power from the battered ship. "Come on, you bitch," he growled through gritted teeth. "Don't fail me now." The proximity sensor blared. A small icy moon loomed ahead. Billy checked the readouts. A nitrogen atmosphere, low gravity. It would have to do. He angled the ship towards the moon's cratered surface, the Odyssey shuddering as it hit the upper atmosphere. The landing was rough, the Odyssey ploughing a deep furrow into the moon's icy crust before grinding to a halt. Billy sagged back in his seat, exhausted, but there was no time to rest. The ship was in dire straits, life support failing, weapons depleted, running on emergency power. He needed parts. Donning his EVA suit, Billy ventured into the ship's ravaged interior. He scavenged what he could: power cells, circuit boards, oxygen scrubbers. As he worked his way deeper into the ship, he stumbled across a hidden cryo chamber tucked away behind a false bulkhead. Inside was a single cryopod, frost rimming its surface. Billy wiped away the condensation, revealing the face of a woman, her features perfectly preserved. With a hiss of escaping gas, the pod opened. The woman's eyes fluttered open. She looked up at Billy, confusion and fear in her gaze. Who are you?" she croaked, her voice rusty from disuse. "Sergeant Billy Taylor, UESM," Billy replied. "And you are?" "Dr. Eliza Kari," the woman said, sitting up gingerly. "Chief Scientist, UES Odyssey." Billy helped Eliza from the cryopod, her legs unsteady. As she regained her strength, she told him her story. The alien creatures Billy had fought were the result of a desperate experiment, an attempt to enhance human soldiers with biotechnology. But something had gone horribly wrong. The creatures, once human, had mutated, their minds twisting into something feral and vicious. They had turned on their creators, slaughtering the crew. Eliza had stayed behind, sealing herself in cryo, determined to ensure the creatures could never escape. "But the Betazoid boarding party," she said, her voice heavy with guilt. "They must have released them." Billy and Eliza worked tirelessly to repair the Odyssey, cannibalizing parts from the less essential systems. As they labored, the ship's AI, brought back online, intercepted Betazoid communications. What they heard chilled them to the bone. The Betazoid Empire had subjugated or exterminated countless species, their expansion relentless and brutal. Earth, the AI discovered, was not the lifeless ruin the Betazoids claimed. It had begun to recover in humanity's absence. "They'll come for Earth," Eliza said, her face grim. "They'll conquer it, plunder its resources. We can't let that happen." A desperate plan took shape. They would lure the Betazoid fleet to Earth and detonate the Odyssey's singularity drive. The resulting black hole would wipe out the Betazoids, buying Earth precious time to rebuild its defenses. As they made their preparations, the proximity alarm blared once more. A massive shape emerged from warp, a Betazoid dreadnought, its weapons already charging. The Odyssey shuddered as the first salvo hit, sparks flying from overloaded consoles. Billy and Eliza fought back with everything they had, the ship's depleted weapons barely denting the dreadnought's shields. A plasma bolt punched through the hull, exploding in a gout of fire and shrapnel. Eliza cried out, a jagged piece of metal protruding from her abdomen. Billy rushed to her side, cradling her in his arms. "Billy?" Eliza gasped, blood bubbling from her lips. "You have to finish the mission, protect Earth at all costs." Her eyes fluttered closed, her body going limp. Billy felt a surge of rage and grief, a howl of anguish tearing from his throat. He laid Eliza gently on the deck, then strode to the control console, his face set with cold purpose. Billy's hands trembled as he laid Eliza's body gently on the deck, his eyes blurred with tears. The Odyssey shuddered, sparks spitting from ruptured conduits, alarms blared, the stench of scorched metal thick in the air. His jaw tightened. He had a mission to complete. Striding to the helm, Billy punched in a course for Earth, the ship lurching into motion. The Betazoid dreadnought loomed on the sensors, weapons charging as it accelerated in pursuit. Billy gritted his teeth, coaxing every ounce of speed from the battered engines. As Earth swelled in the view screen, Billy's eyes widened. A vast network of orbital platforms bristled with weapons, sleek warships arrayed in defensive formations. He hailed the fleet, his voice hoarse. "This is Sergeant Billy Taylor of the UES Odyssey," he transmitted. "Requesting assistance, I have a Betazoid dreadnought on my tail." The comm crackled. "Sergeant Taylor, this is Admiral Ivanova of Earth Defense Command. We've been monitoring your approach and we're aware of your actions and the Betazoid threat. Stand by, we're moving to engage." Billy watched, awestruck, as the Earth fleet surged towards the dreadnought, a swarm of fighters and frigates harrying its escorts. Railguns flashed, missiles streaking through the void as the battle erupted in earnest. The dreadnought pushed through the maelstrom, its shields flaring under the onslaught. It was closing fast, its weapons zeroing in on the Odyssey. Billy's mind raced, a desperate plan taking shape. He hailed the Earth fleet. "Admiral, I have an idea. I can ram the Odyssey into the dreadnought's command center. The singularity drive. I can detonate it like a bomb." There was a pause, heavy with the weight of his words. "Understood, Sergeant," Ivanova replied, her voice tight. "We recognize your sacrifice. Godspeed." Billy input the commands, the Odyssey's course shifting, aiming directly at the heart of the dreadnought. He glanced back at Eliza's still form, his chest tightening. "I'm sorry," he whispered. I wish we had more time." The Betazoids, realizing his intent, redirected their fire, plasma bolts hammering the Odyssey's shields. Alarms shrieked, the ship shuddering under the impacts. Billy gritted his teeth, diverting every scrap of power to the forward shields. The Odyssey hurtled towards the dreadnought, its pitted hull glowing red-hot. Betazoid point defenses filled the void with searing light, but Billy held course, unwavering. The dreadnought swelled in the view screen, its hull plates visible, its command tower looming. Billy's hand hovered over the singularity control, his breath ragged in his ears. The Odyssey slammed into the dreadnought's hull, metal crumpling, decks buckling. Consoles erupted in showers of sparks, the ship's frame groaning under the impact. Billy, thrown from his seat, hauled himself up, blood trickling from his nose. He lunged for the control panel, his fist slamming down on the singularity detonator. For a heartbeat there was silence, then a blinding flash, a roar of collapsing matter. The singularity tore open, a ravenous darkness swallowing the dreadnought from within. The Odyssey, half embedded in the dreadnought's carcass, vanished into the seething gravitational maelstrom. Metal stretched and sheared, the ship coming apart as it crossed the event horizon. In his final moments, Billy closed his eyes, Eliza's face filling his thoughts. The Earth fleet, engines straining against the pull, watched in somber silence as the black hole consumed the wreckage, the last remnants of the battle vanishing into its infinite depths. Escape pods and shuttles winked out, the surviving Betazoids choosing oblivion over capture. In the aftermath, the orbital platforms hung like silent sentinels, the Earth glittering below. Admiral Ivanova, her face lined with grief and resolve, addressed her crew. "Today we witnessed the ultimate sacrifice," she said, her voice carrying across the fleet's comms. "Sergeant Billy Taylor and the crew of the Odyssey gave their lives to ensure our survival. We will not let that sacrifice be in vain." She paused, her eyes hardening. "We will rebuild, we will fortify. We will ensure that never again will humanity be at the mercy of an alien threat. This, I vow." As the fleet began the grim task of recovery, a small probe emerged from the debris field, its hull scorched but intact. It bore a simple message, broadcast on all frequencies. We are the last humans. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.